Hey guys, Will here. So a quick update video today on the BJ Sim Racing pedals. We did a full review on their hydraulic pedal set about a month ago now. Tom has since been running that pedal set on his daily driver rig, and we've now received the load cell kit, which you can see in front of me here, which we're going to test out, put against the hydraulic kit, see how it performs in comparison, as well as compare it to some of the other pedals that we've tested here on the channel. So a quick update today. We're not going to go through the entire process again. I would encourage you to watch that initial review to check out the throttle and clutch pedal, as well as of course the hydraulic brake. So I'll put a link above my head for that right now, as well as down in the description. Let's get stuck into this load cell pedal, and then we'll jump into some driving tests with Tom on his rig. So let's have a quick recap of the basic design here, as well as a closer look at the load cell. Then we'll get into some driving tests. So same basic design as the hydraulic pedal that we looked at previously. You can see it's still got the same 20mm adjustment front and rear here, and that allows us to adjust the inclination front and rear. We've also got a 5-position adjustment here for our pedal throw, and that allows us between 40mm and 80mm of total pedal travel. Obviously limited by the preload on the spring as well. You're not going to be able to push past a certain point, but that's going to allow us to adjust our maximum throw here, so we don't end up blowing out our urethane springs up in the load cell portion. So on the front here, don't have any adjustability in terms of the pedal plate. That is a fixed position. And then you can see the shaft that runs through the spring assembly here is in a fixed position on the pedal arm. So you can't adjust the ratio from here. You can see because on the back here, the little bracket which attaches it to the load cell doesn't pivot. If you were to try and adjust the pedal ratio here, you're not going to have a straight shot through the cylinder, and you're going to end up bending things. So don't even try to attempt that. So the only adjustments that we have are to the spring preload here, which we'll look at in just a moment, the tilt, and of course the amount of throw. So in terms of the rest of the construction, pretty basic really. You've got the same control module that we looked at before in the previous review video, so we don't need to go into that again in detail. And if we spin it back around here, you can see 200 kilogram load cell. So as we push down on the pedal, force is being exerted on this little bracket here. That is then being transferred through to the load cell. The signal is then converted into a varying voltage, which is then interpreted by the sim as braking pressure. So we can see anywhere that we have metal on metal contact with moving parts, we've got these little brass washers. So on the pivot point here, the pivot point for the arm that's going through this assembly, as well as the area on the back here where the arm is actually traveling through, and you'll be able to see that later on once Tom gets this up on the rig. So that has worked out quite well so far with the pedals that we've been testing for a month now. We haven't had any issues with squeaking. We haven't even had to lubricate them, which is great. And then up on the spring assembly itself, you can see 3 urethane springs, which will squish up as you push the pedal down, as well as a metal spring. So the way this is going to work is the metal spring is going to squish up first as we push down the pedal. That's going to give us a little bit of initial travel there before we reach our threshold braking point, which, as you guys know by now, is very important when it comes to sim racing pedals. So this is going to squish up a little bit first. We're going to get a little bit of movement through the pedal. Then as we reach that threshold point, we're going to start squishing up our urethane springs, and that's going to allow us to kind of modulate around that maximum brake pressure whilst having that nice initial bite there. Now we can adjust preload as well. Simply take a Allen key and we can screw that out to increase the preload. And as we do that, it's increasing the preload across all 4 of these springs. We can also decrease it as well. Now, one thing I will mention quickly, if we do wind it all the way in, the spring here does actually become non-captive. So we wind that in, you can see everything does start to move around a little bit. So it's all moving around, and you can see that's become non-captive. We don't have any sort of a spring seat or spring perch or anything like that. It's simply just sitting on top of a metal washer. So not quite as nice as the Mecha Cup 1 pedals that we reviewed a couple of weeks ago now in terms of the design. There are, you can obviously see where they've cut a few corners to keep the prices down, but as long as they feel good and they don't lose their adjustment or slip and change over time, it shouldn't be a problem. So let's wind that back out again. So overall, a pretty simple design, but looks like it has all the fundamentals there necessary to make a nice feeling load cell brake. So I'm going to hand this over to Tom now. We'll get it installed on his rig, and he can give you his driving impression.
Hey everyone, welcome to my place. It's been a while since we've been here on the channel, so welcome back and thanks for stopping by. So these BJ pedals have been very, very enjoyable over the past couple of months. These are the BJ Steel GT hydraulic pedals, so we'll just have a quick chat about my experience of these first before we move on to the load cell. I was a little bit nervous going into the whole hydraulic brake thing, but this has been excellent. I've had no issues with weeping or brake fluid getting anywhere it shouldn't be. The spring tension or preload has just been consistent the whole time. There's been no squeaks developing or anything like that. Just overall, it's been a very trouble-free, simple experience, which is not always the case when it comes to hydraulic pedals. But this one has been great. The feel of this pedal has been spot on for me, I think. With any of the 3 pedals here, we've got no slop or play or anything like that, which we do have in a lot of really, really expensive pedal sets. So that's great. You've got nothing there to impede your inputs and feedback that you're getting from the pedals as you're driving. Particularly on the brake, not having that slop there allows you to have real finesse over those little detailed brake inputs that you might want to just sort of straighten your car up or get your balance right around some windy bits or that kind of thing. The threshold point is just spot on for me. It's nice and defined. It's at a good point in the throw of the pedal, and you've got a lot of feeling either side of that threshold point as well. So in any braking situation, you know, heavy under brakes in a long braking zone where you just want to hit that threshold point and slightly modulate it either side of that, and then trail braking, lifting off slowly, you've got that accuracy in this pedal. And then, as I said before, those little taps here and there to get your balance right, it's spot on. I really, really like it. So I'll chuck on the load cell, and look, if the throttle and clutch are anything to go by, I expect this pedal to be pretty darn good. The quality overall here is excellent, so there's no reason why it shouldn't be a very good load cell pedal. Whether or not I get as much enjoyment out of it as the hydraulic pedal, I'm not sure, we'll find out. But I'll also comment on how I feel it compares to some of the other load cell pedals I've been using. So I'm gonna pop on the load cell pedal now, and then we'll jump into some driving and some first thoughts on that. All right, so before I go ahead and press this pedal for the first time, I'll just mention these cool shoes I've got on. As Will and I have mentioned before, the edges on these pedals are quite sharp, to the point where I wasn't really comfortable driving in socks, which is my preferred choice of footwear. So I went and got these reef shoes, which were super cheap on Amazon. I won't give you the exact price because it seems to change a fair bit, but they were cheap, they arrived quick, they seem good quality, they haven't fallen apart, and they do give the bottom of your foot that little extra protection against the edges of those pedals. They've got quite a bit of grip on them, which takes a bit of getting used to, but if you don't like that grip, just chuck a sock on over the top of them, and there you go. Link down the bottom to those if you want to pick some up. They are really, really quite good. And I've just been wearing them around the house because they feel like socks and, you know, give you a bit of extra protection against Lego that's left on the carpet, that kind of thing. So anyway, onto this pedal, let's give it a push. All right, so straight away I can tell that this is, you know, every bit as good quality as the other pedals, the throttle and the clutch. It fits in perfectly with the quality we've got there. It's a nice stiffness. I do have a bit of a threshold point going on about there. I can feel a slight bump there where I think that first spring is compressing right up. It's pretty subtle, so I don't think I'm going to be able to rely on that sensation to get a threshold point, and it's also quite a long way down in the throw. It really is a bit too far down in the throw of the pedal to use as a threshold point, but it is very progressive feel. It's nice and light at the start, very comfortable that will give me the amount of accuracy you need for little adjustments in your braking input. It's really whether I'll just be able to find a nice comfortable threshold point, I think. That's the only thing that I don't like as much as the hydraulic pedal from just pushing on it here. But let's go for a drive, give it a proper test and see how it goes. All right, out we go onto the track at Bathurst. We're in the Skip Barber, which is a car and track combination that I just really enjoy. It's very fun, but also it's got a good amount of variety in the kind of braking we need to do around here. So we've got some trail braking as we head into this first big braking zone here as we control the rear end getting into here. Then we've got up the top of the mountain just a lot of little detailed inputs to balance out the car and slow it down just enough to get around those S's. Then of course at the bottom of Conrod Straight we've got a big braking zone where you're gonna want to hit that threshold point spot on. But let's see how we go up on top of the mountain here. We've got cold tires, so it'll be a bit lively on me. Got to lift a little bit there. All right, here we go. So it feels really smooth as I just finesse the brake there. Yeah, that feels really nice. Just such a smooth but weighty feel about it. Just kind of feels expensive, which is great. It's what you want, right? Yeah, as I was saying, it's smooth, but not to the point where it feels lifeless and light. It's got enough weight behind it to really give you a lot of feedback and a lot of precision in your input as well, especially in those early stages of the throw where you're just kind of nudging it on. Okay, let's check this threshold out. Okay, so there's a lot of progression in the spring rate as you go through the throw of the pedal. It's yeah, a very gradual and consistent increase in the spring rate as well, which is nice. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that you could learn a good threshold point there quite easily. There's not the nice kind of bump that I was talking about. That little bump I felt is really not coming into play, I don't think. It's too far in the throw. But yeah, it's such a good progression in the spring that I don't think you'll have any trouble teaching your muscle memory where your braking point is or where your threshold point is. And then modulating around that threshold point as well. It's super smooth. There's no binding at all or anything. It's perfect in terms of smoothness. It really is buttery smooth. All right, I'm gonna push it a little harder around the top here. Tire's a bit warmer. See if we can go flat. Come on. Not even close. Oofed. All right, I want to try something else out now. Okay, so before I jump into another car, let's just have a look at this telemetry here. So drive out so it releases the brake, and we'll stop here. Okay, so just looking at this telemetry trail here, I've got my throttle in blue, my clutch in yellow, green, and my brake in red there. So what I want to see is if I can hit a consistent point on that line, or if I'm sort of all over the place and finding it inconsistent. So that's kind of where I feel like my threshold point should be. And then I can modulate gradually around that. So hit that same spot again, not bad. And modulate, smooth modulation, there we go. Nice drawing of a Christmas tree on its side. Yeah, I feel like that is very workable. But it would be nice if there was a bit more of a clunk or something when it hits the end of that first spring. That's all I'm really missing. But I'm gonna jump into some other cars, do a bit more driving, and we'll come back and have a bit more of a chat about where I think this sits compared to some other pedals and whether or not I think the hydraulic pedal is worth it over this. So after driving around with these for quite a long time in a bunch of different sims, basically it's just confirmed everything I've said prior to this. These are a really fantastic set of pedals, and this brake is incredibly good for the price. So I'm just going to jump straight in and compare this to some other pedals that I'm quite familiar with. So as far as similarly priced pedal sets go, the closest match that I am familiar with is the Fanatic V3s with the damper and performance kit. And look, that's a very different experience to these pedals. For a similar price, these do have a much more professional, sporty feel, and I think will bring you a lot more immersion and enjoyment to your sim racing experience. So while the V3s do bring a good experience, I was using them for a very long time very happily. These do seem to be on another level of cool to those, I think is the best way to put it. These are quite comparable to the Mecha Cup 1 pedals that we reviewed not long ago. So the Mechas do have a better finish overall than the BJs do. They have that nice coating on the pedal pads, and overall they do have a better look about them. But when it comes to driving experience, there really isn't all that much in it. Maybe just the smoothness on the edges of the pedal pads on the Mechas is all that's really in it when it comes to actual driving experience. The other set that I'd say are fairly well matched to these would be the SRP Pro pedals, which I was using for quite a long time, and I would say I much prefer the BJs to those SRP pedals. The SRPs were really smooth, but they had this lightness to them, which I just kind of found a little bit boring after a while, whereas these have a really heavy duty but smooth feel about them, which I really enjoyed. So of course you're saying, well, hang on a second, the Mecha Cup 1s and the SRPs are almost twice the price as this, and yes, they are. So that makes this really, really impressive as a 3-pedal set with the load cell brake. And if you're looking at those other pedals, then you've got to bring the hydraulic brake into the equation. So this is about an extra $400 US, which I'm not going to comment on whether that's a lot or not, because that's different for everyone. So what I will say is that I do prefer the hydraulic over the load cell. It has this character that you just don't get from this. Well, I think this gives you everything you need to drive fast and enjoy your experience. This just has a texture to it, which I so enjoy. There's almost a bit of a zip kind of feel as you press it in, which gives you a really good idea of where your foot is and how much you've moved the pedal, as well as that metallic tap sound that you get when this spring compresses, which gives you that other bit of information, creates a really good threshold point for braking. So I do find the hydraulic pedal slightly more accurate and enjoyable than the load cell, but it's really good. So if $400 is a lot for you and is going to break the bank, then I think you'll have so much fun with this pedal and you won't feel like you're missing out on anything. But if $400 isn't a lot to you, then yeah, the hydraulic pedal does bring more to the table and you might find it a worthy investment. Then when you look at other hydraulic pedal sets, this is a very, very good price. For a 3-pedal set with a hydraulic brake, which is proving to be very well built, is not showing any signs of wear and tear or excessive need of maintenance or anything like that. It really is an excellent option. So I am going to be enjoying these pedals for a while to come, I think. I will put the hydraulic back on my rig and give that more of a workout and see how it goes over time in terms of maintenance and that kind of thing. And of course, we'll let you know if anything noteworthy occurs with that. But that wraps up this video for today. If you've enjoyed it and it's been helpful for you, do hit like and subscribe. That does really help for YouTube to show other people this video, so do that. But above all else, join in the chat down in the comments below. That's the most valuable thing for the sim racing community, to get you guys involved in the chat, so please do that. And I'll catch you again with Will for the next video soon. See ya.